You're listening to The Fight Game with Timothy McCain, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Charles Energy Johnson. How you doing, brother?
What's up, baby? Doing good, man. Real good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you have a fight coming up against Yuma Huruchi. He's 8-3. You're 8-2. Now, granted, the one thing that I noticed about this fight was the age difference. You're, I believe, 30 years old, and he's 23, 24. How do you plan on using your experience in the fight game as leverage against a younger opponent?
Uh, Mixed martial arts is a little weird. You can have a kid that's 20 years old with a lot of fight experience. So it's a little different when you get in there. Age doesn't really matter. It's about your experience on the mats, and he's very experienced when it comes to. He's been doing this for a while now, so I believe his background is karate, but he's been training for a while. You could tell he's been groomed after the Japanese market area. They're trying to groom him up and build on his Japanese fan base. So for me, I don't really look at the age as anything. I look at it as more so, he's experienced as I am when it comes to fighting. Maybe not in life experiences, but in fighting. So, yeah, man, I don't think it's too many people in there who can match me when it comes to mindset and being able to just be yourself in there.
Mm-hmm. But that's what I mean. That's what I mean when I talk about experience. Sometimes your life experiences, sometimes those battles too. But sometimes those life experiences and training with others, listening to others, elders in the sport, it can help you in your mentality. So just talk about your mental capacity when it comes to the fight game, when you're not only preparing for the fight, but when you're in the trenches.
Yeah, man. I had a lot of adversity growing up, and I was fortunately able to get in a good situation, getting raised by two parents who were in the Marines. So they gave me some structure that I really needed after start growing up with my mom. And then, just going through life and track and field, I was fortunate to have coaches that cared and were very, about having respect, and just all the parents that are around me when I grew up, you had to be respectful. And then when I got into wrestling, after years of running track, I just gravitated to it quickly because, I learned how to have a work ethic, and I learned the value of work ethic and what it took to be successful. Because when I began running track, I sucked, tried to be a sprinter, but I was a little guy, and then I had to transition to distance running. By the time I finished running as an amateur, I was a two-time national champion and close to breaking amateur records in steeplechase, et cetera, et cetera. So I learned the value of hard work through years of running track and my dad being my coach and in my corner. So as a fighter, I just carry all those same traits. I carried all that to college. I carried it into fighting, and just that mentality from wrestling and being an all-state wrestler in high school. Knew how to cut weight, knew how to be on weight. I've never missed weight ever in my life, So just very disciplined, man. Very, I know what needs to be done, and I'm willing to do the hard things too. So as far as life experiences and adversities, it makes fighting easy. Fighting is a release. Fighting is art. Fighting is fun. If things go wrong, you got a guy in there that's gonna save your ass. So you can. It's not like being out in another type of situation. So.
Yes, sir. When did you know that the fight game was for you? When did you know that athletics was for you? Was it because of what your parents introduced, because they were Marine and they were into physical activity? When did you know that the fight game or that sports was for you?
I got into fighting really late. I always liked watching boxing. I asked them to put me in boxing around my 8th grade year, but they put me in wrestling. So I wrestled the summer before high school, and then when I got to high school, I got on the varsity team about midway through my freshman year. So I wrestled varsity all 4 years, an all-state wrestler 3 years. But I got into wrestling late compared to the guys I was wrestling. They had been doing it all their life. So I knew sports was for me, you know, just as I got older, you know, running track, I always was in different sports. I played almost every sport. I did every event on the track, from long jump, triple jump, shot put, discus, pole vault. I did every event, every running event. And then I just wasn't afraid to take on things and try to see what I could do. And I hate when people tell me that I can't do something. I had a coach tell me one time that I wouldn't make a national mark. I would never make a national mark in the steeplechase the first time I ran it because I was about a minute off of it. And then the next year I was about 15 seconds off of it. And then the next year I beat that national mark by 30 seconds. So the time that what people put on me, I hold a chip on my shoulder when it comes to those type of things. When people doubt me or they believe that if I say I'm gonna do something, I usually do it. If I put myself into something, I learned that, you know, if I really go after something and I pursue it, that I can make it happen. You know, in high school, I started waking up at 5:30 in the morning just to run a couple miles, run around the block a few times, run around the neighborhood a few times, you know, and just learn, you know, how to just make the best of every situation. You know, everything isn't gonna be in your favor all the time, but you know, my dad always says everything happens for a reason. And my mom always, you know, she always was on the book. So if I fell behind there, she wouldn't let me do sports. So I just my sister was like the greatest athlete. She was great at everything naturally. She was a year older than me. So she kicked my ass in everything growing up, and it made me really competitive and wanted to prove myself. So it's just, you know, my life just kind of just played out that way. So when I had my first fight as an amateur, I didn't know anything about MMA. I was training with a buddy of mine, and he asked me to come work out with him because we wrestled together in high school, and I was home for the summer from college, and in between trying to figure out what I was going to do with school. So he was like, I need somebody to work out with me. And then next thing you know, he was like, you know, you're pretty good at this. And then I was like, I don't know how to fight yet though. Like my left hand, I don't really know how to throw it for real. And then, you know, 2 weeks later, I was fighting my first amateur fight, and I was just hooked from there.
Wow. Why the name Energy? Who came up with that name?
Why not? You know, like my boy Westbrook say, why not? Energy is just about, you know, who are you? You know, what do you represent? When you go out there, you got to show who you are in some way, shape, or form. You know, what that G represents for you. For me, is just, you know, I'm an artist at heart. You know, I do graphic design, I draw, I make music, I create music, I write. I like every realm of art. So, and fighting is just another realm of art. So when I get in there, it's just, you know, just getting in there and being the best version of myself and trying to put out something that's just like represents me. That's what I feel fighting is, you know, like look at all the different fighters, you know, everybody fights differently, but it's them, you know? So that's what energy represents to me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now I was reading one of your Instagram posts, and you talked about, and I'm paraphrasing you. You talked about the idea of loss, and that everybody takes L's times. It's just a matter of how you handle those situations. So for you, starting out in your professional MMA career, you started out as 6-0. Okay, you were undefeated, but then you had a situation where you were kind of losing some battles, but then, as we see, you've actually won 2 fights in a row. Just take us through the mentality of being at a place where you were undefeated, losing it, but then losing that undefeated streak, but then coming back ultimately as a better fighter.
Yeah, I mean, the losses were bullshit, to be honest. When I fought Sean Santella, I fought him in Pennsylvania on a sprained LCL, and I took that guy down 8 times in the fight. I left the fight without a mark on my face, without a mark on my legs. I took him down 8 times in the fight. He took me down in the first 30 seconds because I tried to kick him with the leg that was injured. And they gave him a bullshit decision because they were trying to push him to the UFC. He was 22-6 at the time. And so that was my first loss. And my coach, very humble Christian coach, he was going off cussing everybody out, pissed. But you know, then we from then on, from that point I got in a fight and I won my next fight in the LFA. I got a TKO. Then I was slated to fight, and I ended up fighting Brandon Royval. And Brandon Royval most recently was a top 5 ranked flyweight in the UFC. But when we fought, it was a back and forth fight, and I feel like I won the second and third round, and he had an excellent first round. He got in there, did what he was supposed to do, and the first round won him the fight. He cut my eye open, but second and third round, I was winning every position, tiring him out. And he told me after the fight, he felt like I won the fight. When they announced he won, he had his head down, looking dejected, and I was kind of like, damn, I feel like I won this one too. And so, like, those 2 losses, to me, I'm undefeated. To me, I haven't lost. And then, now it's just like I said, that chip on my shoulder, man. Like, I'm pissed off. I feel like I haven't been given the opportunities that I deserve, despite working my ass off and doing everything I'm supposed to do as a fighter, and as a person. So I went to Thailand. I got an opportunity to go to Thailand for a year and a half. They offered me to come out for the tryouts, and I earned a spot on Tiger Muay Thai's team. And I was out there for a year and a half, a little over a year and a half, due to the pandemic. It was a 1-year sponsorship, but it got, extended because of the pandemic. So I was just out there grinding for a year and a half, a little bit over a year and a half. And I did 2 fight camps with Peter Yan. And as one of his main sparring partners, when he fought Uriah Faber, I was sparred with him multiple times that camp. He never hit me with anything that he hit Faber with, but he touched me. Don't get me wrong, he had his moments, but I never felt like where I wasn't able to compete. So it just gave me a lot of confidence. He's a great teammate, but he's one of the best fighters in the world. So it just gave me a lot of confidence coming back from Thailand, coming back from being out there, not just with him, other great teammates, and the whole situation that I put myself in to grow. Now that I'm back, man, I just like, I'm here on a mission. I told all my friends and family in Thailand and here, I said, I'm not going back. I'm not going anywhere until I'm in the UFC. So I'm just on a mission right now. I'm focused. And I feel like that's where I deserve to be. And Yuma's a good fighter. He's a young kid, but and for me, he's standing in the way of where I'm headed,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I want you to talk about your experiences in Thailand. Being an American, being someone who was born here, lived here. What was the experience like for you from a cultural perspective, going to Thailand and experiencing the culture, the people, the food, as well as some of the things that you learned over there?
Yeah, man. I love the Thai people and their culture. They work hard, man. They have a big running culture as well that surprised me. Like, they do like 5Ks, 10Ks. So I got a couple of those in while I was out there. After about 7 months being out there, I learned about it. I was like, oh, I found my little niche. That's what I do. So we had a little Tiger Muay Thai running team. I started doing that. But the people and the culture is just beautiful. It's very respectful. Everything is respectful, and the kids grow up fighting. But fighting isn't just a way out for them. It's a part of their culture. It runs in through their history of Thailand. The Muay Thai, they didn't have weapons in the military, so they that's where Muay Thai was created. Be able to fight without weapons. That's why Muay Thai is such a devastating martial art. And so you just see these people that live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, and they don't have much, but they don't need much. They have all natural fruit. It's a beautiful place. You got the ocean. I was in Phuket, Thailand, which is close to 10 minutes from the ocean, 15 minutes from the ocean. I can hit different beaches, different sides of it. So in a 25-minute ride. So it was just, it was one of the best experiences of my life, outside of it being a pandemic, and then also, I'm still a city boy. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. So I still like getting out, going to the club from time to time. So the area there is called Patong. So I started doing some MC work out there, some nights, and it was just like it's a party life area in that area. Like it's kind of like Patong is like when it's like New York Times Square, but
Oh, wow.
like it's like the bootleg version, right? So it's like, but it's a lot of people. Like literally, the first time I went there, because it's a lot of people from all over the world who visit Thailand, and like people have money there. And when those tourists come, that's how the Thai people make their money, from tourism mostly. And when you walk down that street, bro, the first time I walked down that street, it's like you can't walk down the street without bumping into someone. By the time the pandemic ended, it was like a ghost town. So it was really weird seeing how like the transition of everything that happened with this pandemic time, and by the time I left there to come back home, I'm just praying that things get a little bit back to normal. They're opening back up on July 1st, allowing some tourism to start going back through there. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll probably be going back later this year once I'm in the UFC and everything. So, but the Thai people are beautiful, man. And I met my girl who I'm with now, my lady, so out there. So we've been rocking together for a while now. So it's I have nothing but great things to say about that place.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What are some of the greatest battles that you've had inside the octagon, inside the boxing ring, as an amateur and as a professional?
Yeah, I only had 2 boxing matches as an amateur, and I kind of just took on boxing as a pro. Like, fuck it, I'll get in there and fight these guys that are blue chip boxers, and Golden Glove boys, and all these guys that I'm fighting, these prospects, and I'm fighting at 135 and 140, so my walk around weight in boxing. And out of all my boxing matches, I never got dropped, I never got knocked down, I never got hurt. And I fought all these prospects, and I have 4 draws to my name, which should be wins. And a few of my losses are debatable. I'm 1-5-4 in boxing, and I can very well be 8-2. I feel like 2 of my losses were warranted. I fought bigger guys. I just didn't really do as much as I could, and I lost those fights. But it was a little bit too much to handle. But I really looked at boxing as learning for me. Like, when I was getting into, because I always loved it. So I have really good footwork. And I understand what's going on. It's just that me doing so much MMA gets in the way of my boxing technique at times. So I had to, for a while, I was doing both, and whenever I could get a boxing match, I was like, yeah, let's do it. But, now I'm focused solely on MMA. So as far as adversity in MMA, like I told you, those couple fights I lost was the most adversity I saw. Was just, the smack in the face that, everything's not going to go your way, even if it should. Even if you do what you're supposed to do, you got to go in there. And like, it just changed my whole mindset, like I don't want to leave anything to judges ever. I've finished most of my fights, and I had a few decisions against some tough competition, but I've tried. My goal is to finish every fight. So as far as adversity goes, I think I received most of my adversity through just, my years of growing up running track and high school wrestling, getting on the podium finally my senior year. That's still one of my favorite accomplishments for myself.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
You talked about it. You talked about don't leave it in the judge's hands. We see it all the time, whether it be in boxing or MMA, unless it's like a real beatdown, unless there's like a huge display of skills that one opponent has over the other one. A lot of times the judging, it deals with interpretation. So as a fighter, knowing this, do you have to go in there thinking, I have to knock this guy out? But if you can't necessarily knock this guy out and you're giving him blow for blow, how do you handle that, knowing in the back of your mind that this could go to the judges? How does a fighter deal with that?
You just got to believe in your preparation, man. You can't think about, how I'm going to deal with that in that moment. For me, my goal is to never think while I'm in there fighting. I should already be prepared. I should only have to make adjustments. That's it. I don't go into fights trying to overthink anything. I do all that in my camp. And so when I'm in a fight, if I'm in a battle, I'm gonna make sure that's kind of why I'm out here at work, Murcielago MMA now, why I stuck it out here, because I can really relate to Joaquin Murcielago when he's in my corner, man. He knows how to bring out things kind of similar to my dad. He's got that feel, like he reminds me of my dad a little bit. He can make me tap into where I need to go, because there's been fights in my career where I just wasn't able to push the button because I just wasn't able to go there. It's just kind of like, I'm just going through the fight, the motions. But Coach Joaquin does a good job of keeping me in that mindset that I'm good at getting into. When I'm on, and just staying there, getting me there and staying there. I've been doing a good job of, like, my last fight, I usually typically started slow in most of my fights, my boxing matches and my MMA fights. But after a 2-year layoff, I was ready to just get in there and get to it. My last fight, and that's how I plan on fighting every fight, just get straight to it. Because the quicker I'm in the fight, the better I fight. If it takes time getting into it and I'm just, then I'm just kind of, I get bored with it, so I need to make sure I'm in the fight, so that's, for me, to answer your question. I don't think that you should ever be thinking about, the judges, etc. And if this fight isn't going, if back and forth, you should just keep focusing on adjustments, because it's always a moment in the fight where you break someone, even if it's for a split second, where you catch them and they realize they're going to be in a fight, and you got to take advantage of that moment and put the pedal down. It's kind of what I used to do in track. I used to draft people a lot. I stay on their hip and push the pace, but stay on their hip, whoever's in the lead. And if they can't push the pace, I'll take the lead and I'll push it. But I would stay on their hip. And the moment they start breaking and they can't keep that pace, I just go. And when I go, I don't go for 5 seconds, 10 seconds. I go for a lap at a time, and I really break them mentally. So that's kind of how I've been approaching fighting is, when it's time to go, you go, and you just keep that pedal down. You break people, because you're not going to break me in there. That's just, I think that's what running does really well for people. Any endurance sport, it gives you a lot of mental fortitude, because you got to keep your mind in it. You got to stay focused. You got to keep pushing through it. It's going to suck, but you get through it. And once you have that, years of doing that, just kind of just the mentality of just getting to that and breaking through that and breaking through people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'm not certain if you're into predictions or not, but if you had to predict your fight and what the outcome would be for July 2nd for the people watching, what would your prediction be for your upcoming matchup, July 2nd against Horiuchi?
With Yuma Horiuchi, I believe that I'm gonna catch him with something as far as the hands go. And if I don't knock him out, I'm definitely gonna end up putting him in a position where I submit him. So it's either gonna be a knockout or submission for sure. I don't think I'm gonna break him though. I believe second, third round, push the pace. If it gets to a fourth round, which I don't think it will, but that fourth round is gonna be really rough for him if it does get there, because first round I'm gonna start off with the pace that I'm gonna keep for 25 minutes. So once he starts feeling in the second, third round, I don't think he'll be able to, keep up with that pace. So I've been training my ass off. I want to go in there looking like, where I feel I deserve to be. So I have to make a statement. I can't just win a fight. UFC wants to see something they don't have already, So I have to make a statement. So my plan is, get him out there early if I can, first round, A couple of my teammates said, you know, they don't think he's gonna make it out of the first, but I'll respectfully say second or third round.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How much does taunting go into play of breaking down your opponent? One of the things that I saw in your previous fight, and what some of the analysts are like, the commentators are like, man, he's kind of taunting at him, like a Diaz brother situation going down. How much does taunting go into play of breaking down a fighter's will, their mental?
You know, I got so used to trying to be politically correct when I was fighting, and I realized that's not me. You know, I've always loved fighting. I've always loved shit talking. I grew up around it, you know, but when I was fighting, I would always try to go out there and just do everything right. But now that I'm like into myself, like I'm really embracing it, you know, and just part of me in there fighting is me talking. I train. When I train, I dance. When I'm at the gym, when I was at Tiger Muay Thai, when I'm at the gym, I'm dancing, I'm singing, I'm moving around, I'm smiling at people, I'm talking, you know. But when I was in fights before, I wouldn't do that. So I told Coach Joaquim, I was like, man, I'm gonna put him on the soul train, Coach. which for me was, you know, I'm gonna get in there, I'm dance, rhythm, I'm gonna be myself, you know, and I'm gonna move and I'm gonna get them moving on my time, you know. So when I do that, people have a very hard time with me. And I figured that out while I was in Thailand, you know. All these people all over the world, fighters coming in, and they all have different things they're good at. And I'm able to train with them all, and do almost everything with all of them. And, you know, you got Russians out there wrestling like Olympians. You got Muay Thai practitioners. You got Aussies. You got a little bit of everything. You know, the Chinese, the Asian teams coming over with a lot of stand-up techniques. You got some jiu-jitsu guys from Brazil, and they throw bombs on their feet. So I had to learn how to navigate through all that and still be myself. And I could see, and I found out, you know, that if I just be myself, man, people gonna have a hard time with me. People love seeing you talk. You know, my brother asked me like, "Hey man, why you don't be talking to people when you in there? Why don't you that's you?" So I was like, "You right," you know. And most of my family members who watched my last fight, they was like, "Yeah, that's you. That's how you should always fight. That's your best fight I've ever seen you fight, because you were yourself." So that's, yes, I feel like I love that aspect of fighting, man. It's nothing respectful about getting there and beating somebody's ass, man. There's nothing respectful. Right. We always say, you know, I'm always respectful afterwards, for sure. Mm-hmm. You know, but when I'm getting ready to compete with someone, bro, it's just like, it's a mentality, man. Like, yeah, I'm coming in here and you're trying to take what I'm trying to earn and deserve. I feel I deserve. I'm not gonna let you do that. And it's nothing respectful about you trying to take food off of my plate. So why I'm gonna sit here and, you know, be cordial with you? No. Before, during, I'm gonna talk shit and I'm gonna be me. But afterwards, it's always gonna be respect. Yes, I respect anybody who gets in there with me. So.
Yes, sir. That's amazing. That's amazing. Where can the people find you on social media? And is this fight going to be on the UFC Fight Pass? Is that correct?
Yeah. So LFA 110 will be live streamed on UFC Fight Pass on July 2nd. I will be the main event now, and it will be streaming live at 9 p.m. Eastern in the US. You can catch me on Instagram at Energy, INNERG MMA, and Twitter as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Charles, for your time. Good luck to you, brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time, man. Where can I find you at?
McCain Entertainment Network on Instagram, Timothy McCain on Facebook.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. God bless, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. You too.
All right.